I'm Marion Blake, 65 years old. For the past decade, I've been the quiet heartbeat of my son's household. The unpaid nanny, the midnight nurse, the constant presence who kept everything running. Every lunch packed, every scraped knee soothed, every lullaby sung while the world slept, that was me. My own life quietly slipped into the background as theirs consumed my days. When my husband passed, I imagined retirement as a season of calm mornings, gardening, and small adventures with my neighbor Ruthie. But instead, my freedom dissolved into raising my grandchildren. Trevor poured concrete long hours. Kelsey worked night shifts at the hospital. Their tired faces became familiar. But their children, the 4 little ones who clung to me, laughed with me, and sometimes even cried on my shoulder, were mine in every way that mattered. At first, I told myself it was temporary, a few months to support them, but months stretched into years. My small house overflowed with toys, homework, and the noise of little voices. Mornings were a race to get everyone to school. Afternoons were homework, snacks, and sports practices. Evenings were baths, bedtime stories, and whispered comforts. Ava, Mason, Theo, and Lily, each milestone, from first science projects to first reading lessons, unfolded under my care. And I loved them. I wouldn't trade a single memory, but somewhere along the line, my own life vanished. My quilting group met without me. The walking club strolled the park without me. The stack of novels I longed to read sat untouched. My world had narrowed to fit their needs entirely. Then came last Sunday. Trevor and Kelsey invited me over for dinner, a rare gesture. The table was set carefully, roast potatoes steaming, green beans gleaming, and a supermarket cake waiting for dessert. I smiled as I always did, proud to watch the children, my heart warmed by their laughter and energy. And then Trevor spoke. "Mom, big news. Baby number 5 is on the way." The room erupted in chatter, but I felt my stomach drop. Another infant, another endless cycle of diapers and sleepless nights. I had already given up so much for them. My evenings, my weekends, my dreams. A few nights later, Trevor and Kelsey asked me to stay after hours. Carefully, they laid it out. I was already there most of the week. They expected me to handle school runs, meals, laundry, and to contribute financially to rent and groceries. My savings, already stretched thin, had carried extra shoes, field trips, and pantry staples for years. Now, they wanted money too. I swallowed my anger and hurt, trying to explain that my pension barely covered my own needs. Kelsey insisted. "You eat here, you use the space. It's only fair." That word, fair, cut deep. My back ached. My hands were raw. My heart was heavy. 10 years of devotion, and suddenly I was asked to give even more. That night, as I drove home, Ruthie waited on her porch. "You look like you've carried the whole town on your shoulders," she said, scooting to make room. I told her everything, the new baby, the endless chores, the rent request. Her words rang in my ears like a bell. "Marion, you raised your kids. You did your job. This isn't yours anymore." Hearing it aloud changed something inside me. For the first time in years, I realized, if I didn't choose myself now, I never would. That night, I vowed to reclaim my life. The next morning began like every other. My phone buzzed before sunrise, a text from Ava pleading, "Grandma, can you come?" Mom's running late. I took a deep breath, poured my half-finished coffee, and drove across town. The kitchen was chaos. Bowls of crusted cereal on the counter, milk dripped across the floor, and Mason rifled through the laundry basket for clean socks. Theo tore through the fridge, searching for a snack, while Lily clung to me in pajamas, hair wild as if she'd wrestled with the wind. I dropped my bag and went into autopilot. Sandwiches packed, juice boxes filled, apples sliced. I ironed Mason's shirt while reminding Theo to brush his teeth, braided Lily's hair, and tied shoes for the other 3. By 8 a.m., I had herded them all into the car for school. The drive was noisy, Ava venting about a history project, Mason drumming on the window, Theo rattling off baseball stats, Lily humming softly, but I held the wheel and my coffee cup like anchors against the chaos. Returning to the house, the pile of laundry looked like a mountain. Dishes stacked high, crumbs littered the floor. I cleaned, folded, scrubbed, vacuumed, ran the dishwasher twice before noon. My back throbbed, my hands stiffened, but I kept moving. By evening, homework done, children bathed and tucked in. The house was calm, but inside I felt hollow, drained of any space that was mine. That night, I sat on my porch swing with Ruthie, and for the first time, I let the words tumble out. I spoke of the fifth baby, the constant chores, the rent demand, the silent pressure I'd carried for years. She listened, then shook her head. "Marion, you've given your life to raising these kids. You've done your job. It's time to take care of yourself." Her words sparked something I'd long ignored. Over the following days, I began to test my boundaries. When Kelsey casually mentioned a night out, expecting me to stay overnight, I looked her in the eye. "No, Kelsey, I can help in the afternoons, but my evenings are mine." The silence that followed was sharp, almost dangerous. Kelsey's eyebrows lifted like I'd struck her. "What do you mean you can't?" she pressed. I stood firm. "I need to take care of myself. I'm here for the children, but I won't live under your roof like your maid." Ava lingered nearby, shyly asking, "Grandma, are you leaving us?" My heart tightened. I knelt and hugged her. "No, sweet girl, I'll always be here. But being here doesn't mean I give up my life. I have to take care of myself too." Her small arms hugged me tightly, and in that moment, I knew she understood the difference between presence and surrender. The real test came when Trevor confronted me. He accused me of taking an envelope of cash, his voice tight and sharp, threatening police if the money didn't appear. My throat closed. I had given everything I could for years, and now I was accused of theft. Ava's brave voice broke through. "Grandma didn't take it. I saw Mom put it in her purse last week." The room fell silent. That night, I packed a small suitcase, quilting needles, a photo of my late husband, my mother's Bible, symbols of the life I'd lost in service of others. It wasn't about leaving the children. It was about reclaiming a space that was mine. When Kelsey came to my door, arms crossed, eyes hard, I met her stare. "Yes, I need my own space. I'll always be their grandmother, but I won't be your maid." She turned and left, and for the first time in years, I felt a strange mixture of fear and relief. By the end of the week, I had signed a lease on a small apartment. It was modest, but it was mine. The key turned in the lock, and the weight of years lifted slightly from my shoulders. For the first time in a decade, I was home, to myself. The next morning, I woke in my new apartment to silence. No cries, no spilled milk, no chaotic laughter. Just the soft hum of the refrigerator and the sunlight spilling over the balcony. For a moment, it felt unreal. I poured my coffee and sat on the small table I'd bought from the thrift store, watching the geraniums sway in the breeze. This was my space, my time, and for the first time in years, I didn't feel pulled in a dozen directions at once. That afternoon, after school, I drove over to help the kids, but this time with rules. I would help, but I would not carry every burden. My heart was still theirs, but my hands were mine. Ava greeted me first, her eyes bright but cautious. "Grandma, are you really staying in your apartment now?" I smiled, kneeling to her height. "Yes, honey. But I'll always be here after school and on weekends. I just can't live at your house anymore. We're going to do this together." The first test was Mason, who frowned at the folded laundry. "Why do I have to do this?" he muttered. I looked him squarely in the eye. "Because you can, and because part of growing up is learning to take care of yourself. I can't do everything anymore. You can." Slowly, grudgingly, he picked up a shirt and folded it. By the end of the day, he had folded a whole stack, his small smile betraying a flicker of pride. Theo's job became setting the table. At first, he treated it like a game, lining up forks and napkins in haphazard rows. I guided him gently. "Look, Theo, imagine the table is a stage. Everything has its place. Try again." The third attempt was nearly perfect, and he beamed. Lily learned to put her crayons back in their box instead of scattering them across the floor. Ava helped Theo with homework, and I encouraged her independence, checking her work, but letting her make the mistakes and learn from them. I cooked, but I let them handle small tasks. Crack an egg, stir the batter, pour the juice. They laughed, spilled, corrected, tried again. Each minor success became a lesson in responsibility and self-reliance. My back no longer ached with the weight of their chores because I had handed the weight back, piece by piece, to their own capable hands. Trevor and Kelsey noticed the change too. Their complaints softened. The chaos remained, but it wasn't mine to fix entirely. I kept my promise. I was there after school, cooked simple meals, guided the children, but my evenings belonged to me. Slowly, the household began to function differently. The kids began to anticipate tasks, ask questions, and take small initiatives. Responsibility wasn't perfect, it was messy, but it was theirs, not mine. One evening, as the sun set and I drove back to my apartment, the quiet felt good, grounding. I wasn't abandoning my family. I was teaching them how to stand on their own. In the kitchen, a small stack of folded laundry waited for me, a reminder of progress. On my balcony, the geraniums thrived under my care. For the first time, I realized that love didn't mean surrender. It meant balance. And for the first time in years, I could feel it. Autumn had settled in, and with it, a quiet sense of calm. My little apartment glowed in the late afternoon sun, the geraniums still thriving on the balcony. I brewed a cup of tea and settled into the worn chair I had rescued from the thrift store, feeling a comfort I hadn't known in years. For the first time, the day belonged entirely to me. I could breathe without thinking of lunches, laundry, or last-minute homework crises. I was finally choosing myself, but choosing myself didn't mean abandoning my family. After school, I drove over to help the children, but only on my terms. I cooked simple meals, checked homework when asked, and guided the children as they handled their own responsibilities. Ava carried out small chores and helped Theo with his homework. Mason was proud of his neatly folded laundry, and Theo set the table without complaint. Even little Lily, with her messy hair and endless energy, learned to put away her toys before bedtime. Their small victories lit a quiet warmth in my heart. Trevor and Kelsey watched this transformation too. They no longer assumed I would step in to fix every problem, and I could see the relief behind their weary eyes. They still worked long hours, still faced their challenges, but the household began to function with a rhythm of its own. Responsibilities were shared, voices were calmer, and laughter, real laughter, not frazzled or interrupted by exhaustion, filled the house more often. One Saturday morning, I returned to my apartment after dropping the kids off at soccer practice. I unlocked my door and the silence greeted me like an old friend. My quilting supplies sat neatly on the table, and my Bible lay on the corner shelf. I poured myself a cup of tea and listened to the quiet hum of life that belonged to me. For the first time in years, I could plan my day without a schedule dictated entirely by someone else's needs. I joined my church quilting group again, reconnected with Ruthie for morning walks, and even signed up for a small desk job at the senior center, answering phones and helping organize events. It was just a few hours a week, but it gave my days structure, purpose, and the small joys I had missed for so long. Then came the moment that truly cemented the changes. Kelsey's 5th pregnancy progressed without incident, and I visited the hospital to meet little Jack. Ava held her new brother with pride. Mason peeked over her shoulder. Theo stood tall beside her, and Lily gazed in wonder. I kissed their heads, whispered encouragement, and quietly left. The chaos at home was still there, but I no longer carried it alone. The children were learning responsibility, and I was reclaiming my life. Evenings in my apartment became peaceful rituals. I watered the geraniums, sipped tea, and read books that had gathered dust for years. I cooked simple meals just for myself, caught up with friends, and felt a joy that had been missing for a decade. My family knew I loved them, but they also knew I had boundaries. Love was no longer a tether that left me exhausted. It was a bridge that connected us while respecting each of our lives. Looking back, I realized I had never stopped loving them. But I had stopped losing myself. Balance, respect, and love could coexist. And for the first time in 10 years, I felt truly free, strong, and whole. I had raised my son, nurtured my grandchildren, and still managed to reclaim the life that was mine. Love is not surrender. It is knowing where to give and where to stand firm. And now at last, I knew exactly where I stood.